Alright, hi everybody, and welcome to Creative Independence. My name is Anton, and this one here is my very first tutorial on YouTube regarding Maya. So forgive me for each mistake that I will make. Probably I will make a bunch, and I hope you will understand my accent because I have a Russian one. So English is not my first language, but I hope you will follow along. Okay, so right here we have the setup scene, and that's what I want to show you guys today, is how do I set up my scenes for recording, for modeling in Maya, right? I have a cute little setup that I figured out for myself, and I have a bunch of questions from you about how do I set it up in Maya, all right? So in this setup, I'll go quickly. I have this model that I modeled from. All right, I have the floor, I have lightning, I have the background, I have a camera, and I have a reference, right? A reference image that I bring to Maya in order to work and model from it. All right, and yeah, and then I record the whole process. I record it from a different camera. And I'm gonna show you all how I make it from scratch, and I hope it will answer all of your questions. And yeah, so one thing to mention is this one is not for beginners. All right, if you're new to Maya, if you don't know the menus, if you don't know how to navigate or how to use the different tools, this one is not for you. All right, you should go to other videos. Maybe I will make some in the future, but for now it's some kind of a advanced skill. All right, yeah, so hope you will follow, hope you understand, and yeah, let's dive right in. So we have here a simple clean Maya scene. I'm working with Maya 2022, all right, but I think every Maya, like since 2018 and forward, will be just fine. All right, so the first thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna run really quick here. I hope you will be able to understand everything that I do. All right, so I'm gonna set up a new project. I'm gonna call it set up scene, and I'm gonna save it under tutorials. I have a folder for it. It's gonna create all those folders for me. And the first things I'm gonna do before anything is I will take this picture. This one is not, I'm not gonna model it, okay? But I'm gonna use it as a reference as how do I work. Each time I work, I want the reference to be in Maya, all right? Not in any outside window for it. So I'm gonna throw it under source images, and that way Maya will know how to where to take it from. All right, and I'm gonna save a version of it. So set up scene 001. Okay, I love working with versions. I have many versions at the end of each project, so it's really important that you save. Yeah, don't forget to save. Cool. So let's start with the floor. I'm gonna create a plane. I'm gonna scale it to 24. All right, and I'm gonna give it a bunch of divisions. Not too much. I don't need it. Cool. We have this floor. Let's name it floor GO. I really try to work with namings as much as I can, because once you get a really intense scene, like a lot of projects and folders and models and lights and cameras, so you can really get lost really quickly, right? So this one is a floor. I created a standard surface, all right? You can go to assign new material, Arnold, and create this one here. And what I did, I added it to favorites. So now each time I right click, assign favorite material, I have the standard surface here, right? So I'm gonna call it as well floor texture, Right, I'm gonna give it a white color, and what I'm gonna do first is go to geometry. Under opacity, I'm gonna create a ramp. Right now, this ramp can be seen when I turn on the texture, and we can see that this is a black-white ramp, but that's not what I want. What I want to do is to create a floor, a round circular floor that goes and fades into opacity, into transparency, all right? So in order to do this, I'm gonna choose a type circular ramp, all right? Now I see that the white is at the end and the black is in the middle, so I'm gonna just replace them. And I'm gonna create some kind of circle like this. That take note that whichever is black, because we're working under opacity and not color, so each one that is black is gonna be transparent, all right? So I want the black not to touch, I don't want the whites to touch the floor here. I want it not to get all the way to the edges. So the black will be around here, the white's gonna be something like this, and this gonna be smooth, just to interpolate it a little better. Now, the next thing I'm gonna do is under transmission, just want to press a little bit, the smallest number I can find above 0, all right? So 0.0001, and here we go. Now, if I turn off the grid, I have this floor. I can play with this color, and you can see that it's fading out to opacity. So if I will create an object, you can see that I can't see it. I can see the object, but it's under the floor. But as it goes further from the center, it's to get more and more transparent. All right, I'm gonna put it back in white because I don't like the colorful color on the floor. Cool. Next thing I'm gonna do is create some objects just for us to see what we're working with, and I'm gonna create a shader for them as well. Let's call it base texture. All right, I'm gonna, let's put the specular weight a little lower, the roughness a little bit higher. Yeah, something like this. I'm not gonna talk about each one of these. I assume that you already know it. All right. Maybe I will do a future video about shaders and about how do I work with them, how do I create them. But for now, the base is enough. All right, cool. So next thing I'm gonna do is I want to change my background. All right. For now, this is the gray, and this is the default Maya shading, the color, background color. And if I press, not many know this, but if I press Alt B, the shortcut Alt and B, I can change my colors. Okay, so I have black, I have gray, I have light gray, and I have a gradient. Now the gradient is what I'm looking for. If we go to Windows, Setting and Preferences, Color Settings, all right? So under here, you can find, let's reset the default. So now this is the color that you all familiar with. This is what comes in default with Maya, all right? And under 3D views in general, we can find the background, all right? This is the color. If I switch, let's say, to black, I can play here. I can make it white. I can make it red. I can make it whatever, all right? But that's not what I want. I want to work with the gradient. So the gradient is right here. You have the top and you have the bottom. I love making it dark blue, all right? And the bottom even darker blue. So we'll take the same color and make something like this, all right? This is my setup. Now you can make it whatever you want. You can make it white. You can make it yellow, green, red, whatever you want. You can make every gradient that you want. Okay, I like this color. Maybe in the future it will change. Many people doesn't love it, but I'm really like the dark blue. All right, cool. So we have our background, we have our floor and our objects. Now the floor, I can select it along with the models. And when I will start to model and move vertices and move the objects, I don't want to choose the floor. I don't want the option to choose the floor. All right. So what I'm gonna do is I wanna make the floor unselectable. How do I do this? We have many ways to do it. My preferred way is simply to go to channel box, create a new layer. All right. I will call it reference layer. All right. I will choose some color. You can choose whatever you want. And I will select the floor, right click on this layer and add selected object. Cool. Now we can see that if I turn it off, the floor disappears. If I turn it on, the floor is here. And here we have this little box that if I press once, it's got this little T in it. It means that it's template. All right. I can select it, but I see the wireframe. I can't see the object. And if I press it again, we have the reference now. So reference is I can see the object, but I can't select it. All right, so I can select the models in here, so I can model, but I can select the floor, which is really great. Cool. So let's see. Next thing I want to do is before I start adding the lights and the camera, I can see that. You can see that the cube and the circle as well, we have this little pixels here. All right, let's smooth it a little bit, but still, like it's now 3. All right, I pressed on 3 so to smooth it, but we still have these pixels here. So what I like to do is turn this option right here. It's called anti-aliasing, and what it does, you can see on the cube here. Okay, you can see those little bumps in here. When I press this one, it disappears. So it smooths the contour, the outline colors. Outline lines for the objects. All right. So I can't see now those little pixels that I can see here if I turn it off. All right. So that's the first one, and the second one is I want to let's put it down to the floor, both of the objects. And I really love working with ambient occlusion turned on as well. This one right here. All right, screen space, ambient occlusion. So if I turn it on, you can see that, let's see, nothing happens. Why is that? So if I go to render viewport, a little box here to the settings, I can go to ambient occlusion. Okay, it's enabled, but we can't see it. Let's see why. Interesting. Alright, so we can see it in this plane, but we can't see it in this one. I think it's something to have to do with geometry. Let's see, what is it? Okay, interesting. It's never happened before, but yeah, okay. So let's ignore this from this plane, and I'll explain what ambient occlusion is with these two objects. All right. So what ambient occlusion is we have something like a shade, okay, but it's not a shadow. All right. It's something that happens in contact between two objects. So you can see, if I scale this cube, okay, you can see that the closer my sphere to the cube is, the closer it to the impact, we have this little black area here. So it happens when two objects are really close and connecting each other. Okay, it happens in real life as well. And it's really the contact area that is affected, right? So we can work on it in the settings. We can scale it. We can work with the resolution here, sorry, and we can work with the amount. I really love 1 and 16 on both of those, right? And yeah, cool. So I think it's good. What it is good for? It really gives another level of depth. Like when you have, when we will have light here, so we will have shadows and light area and dark areas. But this one here, when it touches, when an object touches another, it gives a little different level of depth. So it pushes it a little bit more. And make note that it only happens in the viewport. So when I will render it, it will not affect it. Not this and not this. But because I record, when I model, I record the viewport and not the render window. So I want my records to be the best quality possible. Alright? So that's why I'm creating this with the ambient occlusion. Cool. So let's move on. Now these two are turned on, and let's start creating some lights, shall we? First of all, let's go to Arnold. I'm working and rendering with Arnold. It comes as default to Maya since I think Maya 2020. Alright, the first thing I'm gonna do is create Skylon light. It's this one giant sphere that illuminates everything. Alright. I will take it to something like 0.3. Okay, and right now I can't see that anything happens. It doesn't matter which intensity it is. And that's because my light, it's turned off. So let's turn it on. And as soon as I do this, now I can see that the more intensity this light has, the more illuminated the scene as a whole. Okay, but I don't want this to be my main light. Okay, it's some ambient, something in the background, so I don't want it to take too much attention. And now, as we have the light, we can see that the plane is not completely transparent in the edges. Alright, so let's see why is that. The transmission is here, it's okay, but here, let's see the ramp. Okay, I can still see this plane, and I think I know why it is. If we'll go to the shader, my specular is not on 0. So as long as I have my specular turned on, alright, the plane will reflect color. It will reflect light, right? So in order for me to get rid of those white edges, I will go to my shader and I turn my specular all the way down, right? As soon as I do this, that's it. I don't see any edges, and now my floor is just that. Okay, cool. So this is, let's turn my layer back on. Cool. Now I'm gonna create 2 more lights. The main light gonna be an area light, Arnold. All right. I'm gonna scale it. I'm gonna pose it somewhere around here. Okay. I'm gonna make sure that this arrow points toward the object. Cool. Now let's go to the attribute editor and play with it a little bit. So my normalize is supposed to be turned on because it's mimics the real world in that way, a real physics. So let's put my exposure to, let's say, 10. Cool. And now I can see the light start to give a beautiful lighting to the scene, to the sphere, to the cube. Yeah, well, probably it's not too bad. Maybe just a little bit more. Let's say 11. Cool. I want to give it a color, a little, let's say, yellowish light. Not too much. I'm not gonna go all the way here, but something warm like this. And the next one, the next thing I want to do is I want this light to also make a light, but I want these models, the geometry, to drop a shadow. So I'm gonna turn this on as well, the shadows. Alright, and now look that everything here is turned on. This is the motion blur. We don't use it unless we have some motion, so not in this case. But now when I turned on the shadows, you can see that my objects throw shadow on the floor. Alright, and that's why I want to have the floor. So we'll have shadows. Okay, you can see the shadows are really affected by the light, by the source. Okay, it will have an effect on the intensity. Okay, cool. So now we have this light. Let's put it in here, and I want to add a second light. Okay, the second light is gonna be a backlight. So what I'm gonna do is just Control D, duplicate this light. You can see in the outliner that I have now two lights, and it's gonna be the second one, and I'm gonna put it right here beyond the object. Okay, I'm building the scene if imagining that the camera will look from around here. All right, so the backlight will come from here, and the main source will come from here. Now you can add as many lights as you want, and different scenes require different setup in lighting, but for my videos, when I model, this easy setup is enough. Okay, I'm gonna give it a little bluish color. Okay, maybe pump up the intensity a little bit. Cool. So now I have this set up for my lights. All right, now as soon as I finished set up the lighting, and maybe I will come back to it, maybe I won't. I'm pretty happy with what I got here. So I can rename this sky light, and I can give it name light, and this is the back light. All right, and what I'm gonna do is go to show and turn off the lights. In that case, I don't see it. They're not there anymore in the scene, but they still infecting my scene. So affecting, sorry, my scene. So if I choose it from the outliner and let's say crack up the intensity here, I can see it still affects it. Cool, awesome. But the good thing is that I don't need to, you know, each time select the light mistakenly or select this one. I just want to work with my geometry without selecting anything else. All right, so I can do also select those lights and drop them here. All right, and now I can select them either because they're in reference, but when I record videos, I really love working with my scene as clean as possible on the viewport, so I gonna turn them off. All right, let's see. The next thing I'm gonna do is I'm going to create camera. This one is gonna be the render camera. All right, render cam, and let's save. All right, so if I have this 01, I'll put it as a 02 just in case. So if my crashes, if I'm doing something that I regret, okay, so I can always get back a version and not start from scratch. Okay, so I have this camera right here. Okay, the next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create, before I move the camera, before anything else, I'm gonna create a plane. Okay, right here. Now make note that I'm working with my my own shelf. Okay, I have here all the tools that I need for modeling, for animation, for a bunch of stuff that I do in Maya. Okay, I highly recommend for each of you to create his own shelf. Okay, cool. So now let's rotate it so it will be along the camera. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm going to go to, let's see, I'm going to go here, okay, to this file, and I want to see his properties. So in details, we can see that its dimensions is 6,000 on 8,000. So the width is 6 and the height is 8. All right. I don't need to make 6 or 8,000, but I can do 6 and 8. Right. And that way I will know that my dimensions is correct. But let's see. I think my picture will come upside down, but we will figure it out. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put it a little bit back. Okay, I'm gonna create a new material for it. I'm gonna call it a reference texture, and I'm gonna import a picture. All right, I'm gonna click on this checker box file. Let's go here. It automatically brings me to source images. Remember that we brought those image, and as I told you, this is a little bit upside down, but it's not a problem because we can rotate it 90 degrees, okay, minus 90. And now the only thing we need to change is the scale here is 8 and the scale here is 6. So the proportions will remain. All right, cool. Now let's look from the camera. I'm going to panels, perspective, render camera. This is the camera that I created. Okay. And cool, I can see the image in front of me. I will turn off the resolution gate, and let's, before we do anything else, I'll just pump up the resolution from this to high quality, to HD. Cool. So now I can take my reference and put it whatever I want. I can put it here, I can put it here. The main thing is that it will stay in front of my camera, so I don't want it to rotate it like this, or so I need to see it as clearly as I can. Okay, so I like putting my reference here because most of the time I don't model in this corner, I model in the middle. Cool, maybe make it a little bit larger. Awesome. Now let's jump back to perspective, and what I want to do is I want to connect these two, right? So I can parent them. I can select the image, shift select the camera, and press P. Okay, you can see in the outliner that now the camera is the parent. Okay, but the problem with this is that each time I select the camera, the plane is selected as well. All right, so what I'm gonna do is I'm not gonna parent it like this. I'm gonna select the camera, then the plane. Okay, the other way around. I'm going to rigging, and under constraint, I'm gonna parent. Okay, to the just little box. Maintain offset. I'm gonna make sure that it's turned on, and then apply. Okay, what it does is it's constraining the plane to our camera, all right? But when I select the camera, it's not selected, and this is what I want. Okay, the next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take the plane. Make sure that you constrain the plane after you place it in the place that you want, because as soon as we use constraint, right, you can see the attributes become blue. And that means that it doesn't matter what I do with the plane afterwards, as soon as I move the camera or move on the timeline or whatever, it will jump back right in, all right, where I made a constraint. So make sure to place it before you make the constraint. Now, let's take the plane and put it on the reference layer as well, all right, that way I can't touch it anymore. And now I can go to render camera, and I can start moving it to the place that I want. So I have my reference here, always here, because it's connected to the camera, All right, so it doesn't matter which angle I look, where I rotate the camera, I do whatever, the reference stays here. Now another thing that we can do is we can create a light for the reference. All right, so I created a light. Let's switch it on just so we can see it. All right, I will put it in here. So I want this light to illuminate the reference. All right, because the reference is also affected by the lights of the scene. So I'm gonna do something like this. All right, this light I'm gonna parent to the camera as well, so that way the light always follows the camera and the reference. Cool. Maybe I'll make it a little bit brighter. Cool. So now I'm gonna switch it off again, go to my camera, and now my reference is a little bit lighter, and yeah, cool, and it doesn't move. So let's see if I'm forgetting something. No, I think that's it. I think that's the way that I'm setting up the scenes. So now when I go to record, all right, let's talk about it for a minute. I need this window, all right. That's what I do. That's my preference. You don't have to work the same way I do, but I found out that this really cool feature that I'm modeling and my camera doesn't move. All right, that's why we did all this process with the camera. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to panels, tear off copy when I'm at the selected camera. So tear off copy. Now this window is floating of the camera, and now in here I can go back to perspective. So what happens now is, let's find a good angle for modeling. Okay, maybe hide this. So let's say I really love this angle here. All right, and you can see that when I move in this in the render camera, you can see it moving in the perspective. All right, and it's really cool because the references moves along with it. So let's say I really love this angle right here. The first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna lock my camera using this icon here. In that case, I can't move my camera anymore, and this is really good because it will make it stable for the whole recording. And now I can start modeling here. Now I'm working with two screens, okay? So I don't need this to be here. I can push it to the second screen, and then I'm working on my perspective here, and I record the second one, right? And that way, when you look here, and let's say I start making some changes here and making extrudes and making whatever, all right? You can see that I can rotate and go along in here, but in here the camera is steady. The camera is set, it doesn't move, and that way it looks really cool that the object is modeling itself without me going around it and making a headache for the viewer, because after I finish recording it, I put it like 2000x speed, and then you can see it really fast. All right, but that's the process. Let's see if I forget anything. No, let's save another version of it, number 3. All right, so yeah, so that's the way I'm working. That's the way I'm making the setup work for me. Okay, I hope it answers all of your questions that you had. Please ask as many questions as you like. Okay, I will be happy to assist. I'm happy to answer, and if I don't know anything, something, so I will try to figure it out for you, and then I will try to answer. yeah, I hope you like the video. I hope you will enjoy it and find it useful, and maybe I maybe you knew all those things. Maybe I give you some new information. Either way, consider to subscribe, like the video, and follow me for next videos. My speedruns will be uh, further down the road. I will try to make new ones each week, each month, and maybe I will make some new tutorials like this, maybe shorter, maybe longer. All right. Please comment below what you like, what you don't like, what would you like to see, what would you like to hear. Maybe, I don't know, like if you have any improvements because of this, my first tutorial, I would really love to hear what you like, what you don't like. Okay, so comment below, follow, like this video, share if you like, show it to someone that needs it. And yeah, hope it was helpful, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.